Welcome. Testing 1, 2, 3. Welcome to AstroLunaChick's Guide to the Universe. I am Susan, aka AstroLunaChick, and I am here reporting to you from Galactic Center. And we're going to discuss what the hell is going on in the heavens and what is up your anus. Thanks for joining me on another episode. It's been a while. I've been MIA. Not really. I haven't done a show in a couple of weeks. I kind of feel like playing around with my background music here. I kind of feel like the eclipse just knocked the wind out of me, and I was really I felt like I was recalculating, so to speak. Eclipses will do that to us. And, I just think energetically, physically, energy level wise, I don't know, most people experience less energy, low energy around eclipses. They tend to kind of zap me out. I was doing okay. I mean, I did pretty good. The first eclipse was like kind of a zinger. And I was talking about in my last podcast, the Scorpio solar eclipse was definitely a revelation of some things. And it was like, oh, wow, okay. Now I know what I'm kind of going into, like the depths of my own underworld, my own psychological stuff that needed to be cleaned out. And, we were doing that on a personal and collective level. It's the Scorpio secrets and kind of this stuff that's hidden from us, hidden from public view normally. So it did bring out a lot of scandalous kind of stuff. And, you guys know how I love that. But, we all have our own Scorpio underworld undercurrent of our psyche that needs to get cleaned out every once in a while. And definitely an eclipse will do that. But then 2 weeks after that, the lunar eclipse in Taurus, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't really that bad for me. It wasn't that it was bad. It was just like, I just needed a rest, for one. And two, it was like, okay, so I was kind of reevaluating things on the professional level and looking at my podcast, and there was just some things that were just kind of just not sitting right with me, things I wanted to change, things I knew needed to change. I just didn't know how to change them. And just this sort of like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Then I just kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? All right. I know it's going to change. I know I'm going to change some things. I know what I don't like. And I know I know what direction I want to take it in. So it was sort of like a, like that GPS recalculating when you've kind of gotten off the route, but you're off the route, but you're trying to find your way back onto the highway that you were on, that somehow you got off on an exit and you're like, damn, this isn't where I wanted to be. So here I am. And so I am going to change a few things, but one of them is making this a little shorter and just segmenting off the weekly astrology, the weekly report part of it, and then the other things that I want to do, just making them a separate show. So I'm basically still doing everything that I was doing. I'm just making it more succinct, shorter, and just kind of chopping it up into bite-sized pieces. Anyway, I mean, I always feel like I go into sort of like a sort of a hermit mode around this time of year. And so also for me, trying to keep up the podcast and keep putting myself out there is like, I don't really feel like doing it because I hibernate. This is my hibernation season, guys. This is like, I was so spoiled with the beautiful fall weather, and just like within a week, it's like, okay, well, the real fall is here. And fall means that winter is coming, and the season of I'm cold and I can't get warm, which is why I got my hat on today. This is my hunter's neon orange hat and my scarf. And yes, my house is warm, but I don't warm up until spring, until it gets at least above 70. It's hard for me to get warm. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. So I'm back. I never really left. I was just recalculating, as they say. Anyway, welcome. Today is Tuesday, November 22nd in the year of 2022. And we are now in Sagittarius season. Yay! Welcome, Sagittarius. Now, Venus and Mercury went into Sagittarius. They are ahead of the sun. So we kind of got a little bit of a taste of a shift, all through Scorpio season, when we had the sun and Mercury and Venus all in Scorpio. Man, that was some deep stuff. And I feel like we were cleaning out the psychic memory banks and defragmenting the hard drive and releasing and stuff coming up from the past. We got the South Node still in Scorpio, and just that convergence of the planets, those three planets around the South Node, was like pushing for us to eliminate. Scorpio is the sign of elimination. So eliminating a lot of the psychic gunk that was stuck, which means facing some dark stuff, our own dark stuff, the darkness in the world around us, looking at some pretty serious issues that are going on around Scorpio themes, one of which is death. It is the time of year this year, around this time in Scorpio season, when we face our own mortality, our fears around death. So looking at a lot of people who've passed, and a lot of South Node Scorpio secrets coming up, just dealing with a lot of heavy stuff, Scorpio being the water sign, and having to do with our depth psychology and yeah, elimination of all that kind of crap, but today the sun is in Sagittarius. It felt lighter last week when Mercury and Venus went into Sag. I'll tell you when that was. I know I got some good news, like really good news. It was like the 15th was a cliffhanger. Venus went into Sag on the 16th, and then the 17th, Mercury went into Sag. So it was like good news around money and relationships, Venus themes, and truth. There was a lot of focus on the Sagittarian themes of faith and hope, and possibly travel. I wasn't really focused on that, but news, a lot of focus on news and journalism, and shortly after that, the unlocking of people, the Twitter jail that people were stuck in, a lot of people that were banned off the platform for speaking an opposing point of view in opposition to another particular group who happened to have control over the platform. So there was a big purging there, a big blockage was removed really as we were going through Scorpio season, and then with Mercury, Venus, and now the sun, and then the sun coming into Sagittarius, like at all of those three planets at the very end of Scorpio was like, all right, let's get the skeletons out of the closet. Let's really face what the issue is here that is being held onto and held hostage. And why? I mean, why do we have to block a certain segment of the population participating in the Twitter town square, let's say, because they don't agree with whatever the other prevailing narrative is? Why do you want to hold those guys back? Why do you want to hold that viewpoint back? Food for thought. But you can't hold the truth back, and that's what Sagittarius is about. So we are now in Sagittarius truth telling season, and I would say that Sag is probably one of the signs that I would most associate with being a whistleblower. During the Mercury retrograde, I talked about that sort of whistleblower energy that seemed to be accumulating at the end of Virgo when Mercury went from Libra back into Virgo, and the very last degrees of Virgo, where there were people who were, if they weren't coming forward, they were filing their receipts, or going back and checking and making sure that they are keeping track of their evidence, because I think that that's going to really come out in full force now with Sagittarius, because we've got Mars in Gemini, which opposes Sagittarius. So Venus and Mercury are marching together. Mercury is going to start to get a little bit ahead of Venus and start to oppose Mars. Now, Mars, as I've spoken about, is out of bounds and retrograde. So it is really not acting the way it normally would. It's being out of bounds, being like no holds barred, the gloves come off, and the big fight is coming. The big fight has been brewing. It's been happening, but it's been seething under the surface. Like, I really tried to be diplomatic about things in Libra season. And then it went kind of underground with Scorpio season. Like, all right, we know something's not right here, but we are really going to dive down to the depths of this thing. It meant more research and more things coming to the surface, to our awareness. So you've seen this play out in the public arena, but it's playing out also within ourselves on a mental, emotional level, to where we needed to process a lot of, really a lot that had to do with the past, going over past things, being presented again with a past pattern, so that we could be aware of it and work on a deeper level of healing, whether it's ourselves personally or as a collective or as a nation, as a species, whatever. So what we are entering into now in Sagittarius is gaining a higher perspective, a higher level of learning and truth, and Sagittarius having to do with our beliefs and our philosophies. We're really going to be getting into more of a discourse, because the voices that have been silenced for so long they're not going to be silenced any longer. I know that, I mean, they're not banned on Twitter anymore, and it's not the censorship has lessened, but would we see another kind of censorship? Will we see the censorship of, we saw it of one group and ideology? Will we see the censorship happen with another group? Like, I'm just kind of waiting and watching to see how this all turns out. But it seems a little brighter and lighter and more hopeful, and I think we're moving towards greater truth. But maybe there's a bigger battle coming. Not maybe. There is a bigger battle coming. There's another battle coming, I'm telling you. It's getting really intense. And I hear a lot of people echoing the same sentiment, that it's like, when is the other shoe going to drop? There's something coming. And it always seems to me that I see a lot of weirdness, craziness, psychosis sort of flare up in people. There's just certain things that I notice as flags, like when a storm is coming and the wind starts to pick up. There's something brewing in the psychic weather, and I'm just waiting to see how it's gonna play out. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting. It won't be boring. It won't be dull, I guarantee you. So anyway, today on the 22nd, this is a 3-day. The date reduces to a 3 in numerology. We got the moon in Scorpio, and it's conjunct the South Node. So we are in the dark of the moon. We're in the last bit of the moon phase before the new moon. So there tends to be a huge release at that time. You know, there could be some sort of big upheaval or crisis, mental, emotional issue that comes up at this time. Indicative of the pattern that whatever it is for you that you've seen over the eclipses, the shaking of your world, so to speak, could be happening between today and tomorrow, because we do have the moon at the South Node, which is a release point. It's a purging, it's a releasing, and it involves whatever we've been holding on to, secrets or fears or resentments. That's all right there in Scorpio, and it will have to do with whatever you've been dealing with over the Scorpio season. It is the culmination. We've already had the climax with the lunar eclipse. So think back about a month ago, and then 2 weeks ago, roughly, when we had the lunar eclipse, there was something that came to the surface, something that came up for review for us to be aware of, whatever it is for you, whether it's, financial, our stability, our values, how things are changing, how we're changing, how we need to maybe set certain boundaries, realizing what our relational dynamics are, how we relate to people, how people in our life relate to us, how it makes us feel, all of that psychological, mental, and emotional component of all of that, working through our own issues and stuff like that. So that is, it's in the final releasing, let's say, with this moon conjunct the South Node. And after these next 24 hours or so, let's see, 15, yeah, a little over 24 hours, let's say, before we have the new moon. It's a time to process, like really think back over these things, process it, look at the growth, look where how far you've come. And really, face these things, whatever it is, face it and try to, I don't know, I guess try to resolve it in any way possible within yourself. It's really all a very internal thing. And that's kind of today and tomorrow. The moon is making an inconjunct to Chiron. That's not really comfortable. That's something that's sort of like nagging at us that we have to address. The moon is making making a trine to Juno, which is in Pisces. And I guess really looking at things, our partnerships from a more compassionate level, or looking at what we need to see, how we might be idealizing our partnerships and commitments, because Juno, it's commitment, it's marriage, but in Pisces, there's a lot of there can be a lot of idealism and deception, and like just maybe not really wanting to see certain things. And okay, so I need to screen share. Hang on. I will be sharing my screen now. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. There we go. All right. So see up here at the top of the chart, the moon is at the south node and it's in Scorpio. It's in the 9th house, but this is my diurnal chart, so it doesn't, that the house doesn't really matter. Okay, so we got the sun now in Sagittarius, Venus and Mercury, which are not, Venus and Mercury are conjunct. So our desire, our love nature, our will, not our will, but we attract what we are desiring, what we desire, which is in Sagittarius. We want freedom, we want to explore, we want to travel, we want the truth, and we want to speak the truth with Mercury here in Sag, and we want to hear the truth. Like, we're ready for it. I think we're ready for it. We want to hear it. And the truth is coming in because as the sun covers these degrees that Mercury and Venus have already been over, the sun is going to shine a light and lead the way towards the truth and seeing the big picture, towards higher understanding and what we've learned, and looking at all the information that we take in through Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, right? So Gemini is the lower mind, Sagittarius, the higher mind. You know, in terms of education, Gemini is elementary education, and then Sagittarius is higher education. It's also, you know, travel, foreign cultures. So we really want to explore, we want to travel, and we want to do it with somebody. And Venus being our values, somebody who shares our values. We want to be more broad-minded. We want to break free from the constraints and the judgments. All right, so that's the 22nd. The 23rd, the day before Thanksgiving, moon is still in Scorpio for the early part of the day, makes a trine to Jupiter, which is the ruler of this Mercury Venus conjunction here. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter is in Pisces. So, you know, Pisces and Sagittarius are both truth seekers in their own way, but it's like the difference between religion and philosophy, like the studying of it and the learning. And then Pisces is more the being and the doing of it and the merging. You know, we want to learn about God, but you can know all kinds of things about different religions and have all kinds of beliefs and philosophies, but that's in your head. It doesn't mean anything until you have some kind of connection with, you know, the merging of spirit with merging with spirit, and also the understanding and the connection between ourselves and other people, between ourselves and God. You know, until we have that sort of experience. We can only think about it, we can talk about it, but it's in Pisces that we really live it, where we understand what it's like to swim in the ocean of consciousness. So, with the moon in Scorpio, we might have that experience. We might actually have that sort of feeling of an understanding of what's going on within the depths of our emotions, of our psyche. There's a ripple happening, and we can really pick up on it with the moon in Scorpio and Jupiter in Pisces here. That's like a real collective ripple there. And I think it will come into some sort of head knowledge, let's say. It's a feeling first, and then it's an understanding and the truth being able to be recognized and spoken, but it's coming. And it's going to cause big waves because, like I said, these planets here in Sagittarius, and it'll start with the moon, are going to oppose Mars. Mars in Gemini. I think it's really, I don't know. I think it's showing by action the duality, the stark contrast of the duality of the two sides, or the two sides, whether it's the two sides of us, our who we are, who we present ourselves to be, who we think we are, versus who we are deep down inside, our ego versus our soul, who we are at a core soul level, and like the two fighting. It's like, the good and the bad twin, or the God and the mortal twin, Castor and Pollux. It's what I talked about with the asteroids, Didymus and its moon Dimorphos, and how NASA bombed the moon of Dimorphos, and that I've been watching that, and what I've seen, it has sort of shaken things up so that we can actually see the two sides of a person, like their true nature coming out, the truth coming out, whereas we might have seen it on the surface. We're getting to see things the way they really are below the surface and how they've always been. And it's like, we've kind of known that all the time, but like collectively, we all have to deal with these two sides and opposing belief systems, let's say, or two sides of an argument, or two sides of a person, talking about the concept of split personality. They don't call it that anymore. Dissociative identity disorder, or NPD. They used to say NPD, but we don't know. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but on a very basic everyday level, because I look at everything in terms of a spectrum, it can be where we disassociate, we compartmentalize. We have an area of our psyche that we don't want to deal with. So we're just going to like pretend that it's not affecting us and just sort of, brush it aside, sweep it under the carpet. But I've really seen more and more ever since September 26th was when the NASA mission reached Didymus and Dimorphos. And so I've seen a lot more. I saw mentioning of twins coming up, and more references to DID, multiple personality, blah blah blah, MK, blah blah blah. Exactly what I kind of wondered about, whether I was going to see that or not. And then really people showing their true colors, us being able to see situations that have always existed, dynamics, let's say, within, especially coming up within the Scorpio season, of things under the surface that we didn't quite get. Or looking at our own psyche and being able to discern parts of ourselves that are not always within our consciousness. It's within our consciousness, but it's not always on the surface, right? So these things rising up from the surface for us to deal with, so that we can not compartmentalize, better integrate our own psyche, so that we can be healthier, mentally, emotionally, and ultimately physically, because it does affect our physical body also, and have better, relationships with people, easier to deal with stuff when we're going through things, if we're dealing with these things on a regular basis. So all of those things, and being able to fly a little higher and gain a better perspective on what is going on, let's say politically, with the midterm elections. We're going to start hearing more of what happened, because we were told we weren't going to know right away. So I don't even know where those things are at, but we could hear some stuff coming up regarding the voting, whatever was going on during the counting of ballots, all that stuff, because there's a lot to do with the political arena when we're talking about Sagittarius. Also, Sagittarius is a sign of law, right? So we're looking at big Sagittarius themes, because Jupiter is about to go direct. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. It's in Pisces right now. It's at the very, very, very end of Pisces, which Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces. And it also rules, it's the modern ruler of Pisces is now Neptune. So, I guess really looking at also our religious structures. Stuff could come out about the churches at this time, about religion. I suppose we are probably in the process of looking at and reevaluating our voting laws, because there's just too much opportunity for manipulation and tampering and whatever. I mean, either way, whatever side, whatever method you're looking at, whether it's electronic or paper ballots, like there's arguments and proponents for both sides, but they both are pointing out the risk of being, it being tampered with, manipulated. But I don't think it's an either or. See, that's the whole thing with this whole like dichotomous way of thinking, and either or, this or that, black or white. Yes, we live in a world of duality where, it's the us and the them, me and you, when the ultimate truth is we are all affected. We are all part of a greater whole, and both sides can have valid arguments, valid points. But we've come to such a place where, and I think this is what's starting to shift, is where it has to be this or that. There's got to be a winner and a loser. We've had such extreme duality to the point where people who have opposing viewpoints and philosophies can't even have a discussion anymore, because it's not a debate. It's just an attack. And I do believe that we are returning to rational civil discourse and debate, because what we've had has been ridiculous. The shutting down and the shutting up of people and what they say, because they don't align with our philosophies, and we're just going to call them all kinds of nasty names because we don't like what they're saying. All right, that is what's leaving. But the battle is going to get more intense with this new moon, starting with the new moon. And I'll tell you why in a minute, why I see it getting more. It's not just this opposition to Mars. It's what Mars is actually doing and what the moon is doing. So here we are, the day before Thanksgiving, the day before people come together and have Thanksgiving dinner with their family, celebrating holidays. And a lot of people haven't done that in a few years. And thinking about the way families were divided based on what their beliefs were surrounding a certain thing that has been going on for the past, well, is it 3 years now? It's almost 3 years now. And I think there's a test of whether or not we can come back together and be on the same page, or if there is a same page, or, this is part of our negotiations, I think, to see if there is a common ground and if there can be forgiveness. All right. So on the 23rd, perhaps it's time to, within ourselves, let the bygones be bygones. And Jupiter in Pisces has so much empathy and willingness to forgive. And then the moon in Scorpio is really kind of holding on to some stuff. But it's the kind of thing where you have to look at what is worth holding on to, what is worth saving, but what is worth remembering. Because Jupiter in Pisces, I'm telling you right here at this last degree here, especially in retrograde, at almost the last degree of Pisces, that is the ultimate in lack of boundaries, right? So I think it's the need to look at how connected we are with the people around us, and how important it is for us to understand what the beliefs and values are of the people that we are so intimately connecting ourselves with. I think up until the past couple of years, it's been easy to wear the mask, but we are not being allowed to wear the mask anymore. We have to face ourselves, and we have to be in integrity and not pretend that, not pretend to be somebody who we think other people are going to like, or that, that they need us to be XYZ. And so we go along to get along, and we suppress the things about us that are truly a part of who we are, so that we won't rock the boat, or, we won't lose our job or our partner or the admiration of our friends, whatever it is, which also means facing the ugly part of ourselves too, the part that needs maybe some healing, or, our own judgmental attitudes, maybe, that we've been projecting on other people, like how we may be judging other people, or how other people might be judging us. Whatever it is, we are really deciding now who we are going to go forward into the next phase with. Do our beliefs and our philosophies really align with those people? And are those people in integrity? Or are they pretending, to be um to be on our side and support us? Well, these are all the things that we need to look at. So the moon is going to shift later in the day on the 23rd. It's going to go into Sagittarius, and we have the new moon on the 23rd. So let me just look at exactly what time that might be. So we're looking at around 6 o'clock, between 6 and 6:30 roughly, that we have the new moon on the 23rd. So this starts a new monthly cycle. And Sagittarius is very optimistic. It's very adventurous. It's fire, which is awesome, because while we had all that watery Scorpio energy, it was getting kind of soggy, and fire energy really helps us to like get up and go, be more active. But this is going to start the lively Sagittarius debate. Now, one of the things I want to point out is, with Mercury and Venus having been around 8, 9, 10 degrees of Sagittarius for the early part of the week, that at 10 degrees of Sagittarius is the fixed star Antares. Antares is a red star, and it is, I don't want to say ruled by Mars, but it is a martial type star. It's red, it's fiery, and it is associated with war. So here's where the war starts to amp up, whatever the war is. So, choose your battles, pick your battles. What is worth fighting for? And really, this is going to be Mars attacks, the war of the words, which I've been talking about really since September, when Mercury went into its retrograde, and I was looking at the retrograde of Mars coming, and that starting like around this time, when Mars, which has squared Neptune, Mars square Neptune can be very misguided words and actions, or it can be, it could be a very high spiritual vibe of, really, really willing to stand up and fight for what your ideals and your beliefs, and kind of feeling like sort of a holy war kind of a vibe about it for some people. It could be literal or physical. I mean, literal or metaphorical is the word I'm looking for. So being very idealistic and really fighting for your beliefs, but it can also be, there can be a lot of projection with Pisces, and it could be, it can be like misunderstandings, taking things the wrong way. Whether it's, looking at someone's words or their actions, or the reaction from statements and actions taken can be way over the top. And the actions taken and the words spoken are way over the top because we have Mars, which is out of bounds now. We have Mars out of bounds. It's been out of bounds. So the anger, the aggression, the assertiveness, the actions, all of that is just kind of over the top and extra. It's overcompensating, it's overreacting, it's overdoing, so watch all of those things. Overthinking, over explaining, right? I've been trying not to do that. That's what my Mars retrograde project, been looking at that, over explaining, over talking. I'm over it. So Mars being out of bounds, and it's 24, almost 25 degrees north. So north is above the ecliptic. To me, that's externalization. Please watch with the driving, the distracted driving, or the drunk driving on substances, just people not being able to see, not, just not being present, not paying attention. Watch the driving, holiday accidents, big ones. With let's see, we could see a storm. Actually, on the 23rd, there could be a storm somewhere with the moon in Scorpio still, with the trine to Jupiter and Pisces. I mean, that feels like a lot of precipitation. And Mercury also rules weather. And in Sagittarius, I don't know. And with the Mars there in Gemini, it could be like a lot of wind, could be fires, could be hearing about fires. But what I wanted to also point out is that now, as of the 23rd, Mercury is out of bounds. So what we're looking at is Venus, our values and our relationships and financial stuff, with Mercury, information, communication, the mind, processing of the information, how we present ourselves verbally, all of the information that'll be coming towards us through the media, because that's Sagittarius publishing. There's a big storm brewing. What could this be? I don't know. Who was it? Somebody from Apple deactivated their Twitter account, and it was floated out there. It was mentioned that, if Apple pulled the Twitter app from the Apple Store, you wouldn't have the app. And then what would happen? I think something's gonna happen. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but there is this there's going to be this backlash definitely against Elon and what he's doing, because there's a lot of people that really benefited from a certain segment of the population not being able to say what they wanted to say, not being able to express their views. And this other segment of the population is, let's call them two separate mentalities. The other mentality has a tendency to throw a huge fit when things don't go their way. So, and it's extremely immature. It's just absolute manipulative toddler shit. So, this should be fun to watch. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Either way, things are changing, and there's going to be this big confrontation. So think about the sun and the moon. It's the beginning at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. I have to look up and see what the star is at 2 degrees of Sag, but I'm not going to do that right now. So we've got Mercury out of bounds. So while Mars has been out of bounds in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign that it rules, now we have Mercury in Sagittarius, which is like diarrhea mouth. Mercury is not at home in Sagittarius. It's the opposite sign of its rulership. So while Mercury loves to talk, Mercury and Sag loves to talk shit, and it likes to talk big, and it likes to brag, and it's definitely gonna say a lot of things. So people are going to be saying things that are just going to trigger the shit out of other people. There's going to be a huge war, and there could be legal battles too, because that's, we're talking about Jupiter going direct. And we're talking about the new moon in Sag, Jupiter and Sag, lawsuits. Absolutely. It's going to be a legal battle. Whatever the battle of like the war of the words, there's going to be lawsuits, people suing people. I mean, it's already happening. It like ramped up when Jupiter went into Aries. It was like, boom. And it was like really interesting lawsuits, and they're still going on. And there's a lot of lawsuits going on. So like maybe what we're going to see is somebody doesn't like the results of an election and they're going to file a lawsuit. Somebody doesn't like what's been going on with something that someone else has been saying or publishing, and there'll be a lawsuit. So back to what I was saying about Mercury and Venus being on the star Antares. That's when as they say, and that's when the fight started. And it all started over something that someone is going to say, which will probably be the truth, or their version of the truth. They're speaking their truth. Someone is speaking their truth and someone else don't like it. So they're going to fight it. There's going to be a huge fight here. And it'll be hard to really discern what the two sides are. It won't really be cut and dried. I think both sides will seem to maybe have a point. They might both have valid points, but it won't be, I just don't think it'll be clear about who's right, who's wrong, what the actual truth is for quite some time, at least until Mars goes direct mid-January, and definitely not until mid-March when it goes back to the degrees where it's been at retrograding. We're going to go back to everything that's happening now. We're going to go back to starting in January, and the process will continue until March, third week of March. So the new moon on the 23rd, it is the beginning. It is the beginning of the end. That's Wednesday. So Thursday, we've got the moon in, oopsie-doo, hang on, go back. We've got the moon in Saggy. So pay attention to what's going on this day, what you hear, the people that contact you, the people who are the ones who are saying stuff most vocal. Very interesting things could center around Sagittarian people or Sagittarian types, foreign people, people ecclesiastica or legal, in the law profession, females, because Venus is there. Okay, so, and lawsuits. I'm telling you, there's going to be lawsuits. It's all going to be, it's all going to be okay. All right, so wait a minute. This is the day that Jupiter goes direct. So big news, big changes. And hang on, I just want to make sure. It might be, let's see exactly when it goes direct. Jupiter. So Jupiter goes direct on the 24th. Wait. Nope. Late on the 23rd. So roughly around, come on, 6-7 o'clock. Around 6-7 o'clock Eastern. -3 degrees. -3 hours for the West Coast. So when planets go station, retrograde, or direct, that's when we really start to see the stuff happening. So again, this is going to be a big new moon, and it centers around all those Jupiter themes that I mentioned. So big time, big stuff there. Okay. Moving on to November 24th. And that is Thanksgiving Day. And that's when we've got Mercury and Venus. So centering around relationships, hope for the future. If there's any kind of, it really doesn't feel terrible. Like, I know it's on the star Antares and that's war, but it could be metaphorical or just, really feeling like you are ready to defend your beliefs, your associations, and relationships, fighting for a relationship, fighting to keep things together or to heal. Because also what we have going on with the moon, Venus, and Mercury is a trine to Chiron. And Chiron is, we could be finding a mentor in another person, healing, perhaps a rift. Chiron is in retrograde, so that is about the past. It really can be seeing the truth, Sagittarius, the bigger picture surrounding, the way we have been thinking and communicating and relating to other people based on our beliefs and philosophies, right? So we can be moving towards greater healing with that. And it is making a square to Juno. So from the legal aspect, we could be hearing about couples splitting up, filing for divorce. That's a legal thing right there. This could be the start of someone's legal, quote, battle with their spouse, unfortunately. And that could be blindsiding right here, with the square to Juno. Juno and Pisces could be oblivious. It could be completely oblivious until, boom, the truth comes and says, this hasn't been working for a long time. The other person maybe have been aware of it and working on it, and maybe the other party has not wanted to acknowledge that. So we'll see. I mean, overall, with all the Sagittarius energy, the fire, I mean, really is not a sign to really stay stagnant or, kind of stuck. It wants to get up and get moving. So that's a good thing. I like it. I like it. But where, it can cause a little bit of friction or uneasy adjustment, perhaps could be because it is making an inconjunct over the next couple of days, Mercury and Venus. The moon will do that today on the 24th, and it could have to do with physical resources because it's making that inconjunct to the North Node in Taurus, or it could just be being able to see things from the bigger picture. Now you see where the places that you're kind of stuck, because Taurus being a fixed sign. Maybe you're kind of stuck. You have the faith and the belief and the ideas and the adventurous spirit to go off and travel or, learn something new, but you still have to deal with this element of your financial position or your physical security, stability, or just not maybe being stuck and not wanting to make a change. What is stuck is what we might have to look at as we have these Sagittarius transits that are going to make that in conjunct to the North Node. But the healing element is here. And the way to heal things is to really be centered in your own self, because that's Aries. Chiron in Aries is healing the selfhood, the identity, the independence, this is where we're getting all of that, the freedom of the individual, right? So what is this going to be speaking of here with Venus and Mercury making this statement of their truth and exposing things to the light of day? It is going to be about personal freedom and sovereignty. I guarantee that is going to come into the mix. So that's the 24th. And again, all this energy is escalating because of Mars having been out of bounds. So there has been this sort of restlessness and dealing with some sort of repressed anger that's been coming out in, kind of awkward and unhealthy ways. It's now going to come out verbally because you can't hide the truth anymore. And so more people wanting to speak their truth, not wanting to be censored anymore, not wanting to censor. So there's going to be a lot of interesting statements and truths coming out. So I expect some crazy stuff. I am here for it. All right, so that's Thanksgiving. Lively discussions. Maybe people will be able to discuss politics from a more rational standpoint, hopefully be able to express their beliefs and what their personal truths are. Yeah, this really is all with this Chiron here, all about being able to express your own beliefs and your own personal truth and to feel good about that. But with the square to Juno, it's going to affect partnership because it's going to affect some partnerships. because I mean, if it's a situation where you're not dealing with things and it's being swept under the rug, then it has to go. All right, the 24th. Let me see what the declination is just looking like, because the moon is now out of bounds. So I was talking about Mars being out of bounds, right? And then Mercury being out of bounds. Mercury's also transportation. And considering that Mars is square to Neptune, where I was talking about watching the driving, the transportation. So there could be storms. Travel could be disrupted. Sagittarius is also foreign travel. So like international flights and stuff like that, whether it's a storm or just whatever it is, flight delays, lack of staffing, I don't know, travel can be disrupted. And with the moon going out of bounds here, and the moon is going to be out of bounds all weekend, that's what I was talking about, this escalation. So when there's a big psychic storm, there can be weather storms. And so be careful, because and also on top of that, just to reiterate, with that Jupiter and travel, air travel, storms, because Jupiter went direct. When a slow moving planet goes retrograde or direct, it's about a week. It's not just that day. With Mercury, moves so quickly, the influence is super intense on the stationary days when it's going into its stationary, it's retrograde or out of it. So Jupiter's very strong, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So anything having to do with the travel industry, watch that. That's not a good day. I wouldn't fly on that day. I'm not saying there's going to be plane crashes, but delays and lack of staffing, that kind of thing. So the moon going out of bounds, also the moon, the mood, the public is going to be reacting to extremes uncharacteristically. People like uncharacteristically moody. So maybe on Thanksgiving it's not a good idea to talk about religion and politics. Just saying, because people are going to be overly emotional. That's what happens when the moon gets out of bounds. People are overly emotional. Now the moon is here at 25, almost 20, 24, 25 degrees south of the ecliptic, out of bounds. And south tends to be more internal rather than externalized. So that could bring up a lot of things from the past, for sure. The south always signifies to me the past and the subconscious, the depths. Look at sort of north and south can be like north being positive and optimistic, south being negative, pessimistic. You'll just have to see. Sagittarius is a very positive sign, but considering all the other aspects, I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. Let's just file it under interesting. And that's the 24th. And let's see what else we got going on. The sun is also going to be squaring on the 23rd and 24th the asteroid Vesta, which has just moved into Pisces. So I think Vesta in Aquarius was really looking at our investments, for one, what we're investing ourselves in and what we are devoted to, because that's one of the themes of Vesta. And it also has to do with groups of women in general. So in Aquarius, it was more like, social media, online stuff, and friends, all those Aquarian themes, right? In Pisces, different vibe, right? We might find ourselves really wanting to invest our time in more spiritual relationships, things that are more satisfying, in the sense of what we're devoted to. We become perhaps more devoted to our spiritual path and therefore our associations with those who are kind of aligning more with our own beliefs. So the sun is kind of illuminating our beliefs and our philosophies, our faith. That's the way we connect to God mentally, and intellectually, and our understanding of what God is, right? But Vesta here is really a devotion to spirit, like the way we experience it, rather than what someone tells us about it. So when it comes to our associations and our relationships, we might be finding ourselves really gravitating more towards people who share our own spiritual beliefs and philosophies, and becoming more devoted to perhaps a practice of some sort of faith and spiritual path. So that's part of what's happening, I think, for us with this Sagittarius influence. And with the Mars retrograde in Gemini, I think we kind of have to go back perhaps to defend ourselves in some way. We may be called on to defend our faith, defend our beliefs, defend our words. Mars in retrograde is going back over the words that we've said. So we can find ourselves reviewing and hearing ourselves or things that other people have said, and maybe looking at them in a different way, a different perspective, where it means something different to us now. We might have thought it was positive at the time, but the motivation can be hidden with the square to Neptune. So we're really looking for the truth here, and we're looking at the motivation behind what the words are and the actions are. A lot of reevaluation coming up. So, and we're just starting it off. It's just starting on the 24th, 23rd, 24th with the new moon. So the 25th, right? We're at 6. That's a 6 day. We got the moon in Sagittarius. At the very end of Sag, it's going to square Jupiter. That means we are going to be in some way called to act on a truth, perhaps, because the square brings action, and the stationing of Jupiter is going to bring some truth up that we're going to perhaps have to act upon. And in the meantime, hang on, I don't want to miss this. So in between the 24th and the 25th, like later in the evening, perhaps overnight, depending on where you are, the moon is going to oppose Mars. So on the one side, we have the feelings, right? That's the moon, the emotions. And then on the other hand, on the opposite end, we have Mars. Mars is the action, the anger, the words, the past. Mars retrograde. Going back over everything that was said and done. And this will really take you back to when the North Node was here in Gemini. When the North Node was going through Gemini and the South Node was in Sag, that's when we should have had the truth. That's when the truth was out there, but it was suppressed. But it's coming back now. And everything that was not said, that should have been said, is going to be said. And people are going to be going back over things that were said that were not true. It's all going to be coming up. So if you're on my Twitter, what I have pinned is my tweet from back in, I don't know, September. Mars attacks War of the Words. And I think I want to just maybe update it and add to it now that we're in it. But I had mentioned how the nodes were going through Gemini and Sagittarius during, let's see, like 2021, really in the thick of it, 2020 into 2021. And it was all, that's all going to come unraveling now. There's so much of this overarching narrative that is just crumbling because the opposite, the two sides of the argument, the opposite side was squashed and suppressed and censored. But the censorship is gone now. The truth is coming out. And this is what's going to happen through this whole month. It's going to be really intense and it's building up until the full moon. So it starts with the new moon. Watch everything that comes out. There's going to be so much truth. I love it. Lovers of the truth will love it. And those who do not love the truth, who cling to lies, who perpetuate lies, are going to be eviscerated because you can't hide anymore. But this is really starting here. It's starting from November 24th into the 25th. The shot across the bow. And so the moon having opposed Mars then will square Neptune, right? Because it's like, oh, that's what you did? That's what you said? This is the truth? What's the truth? Squaring to Neptune, it's time to see the truth. And we see the truth by seeing the lie. We see the lie first. First we see the lie, then we see the truth. You cannot see the truth if you don't love the truth. If you don't tell the truth to yourself, then other people can lie to you. And that is a culture that's been perpetuated for a long time now. And its day has come. All right, the 26th, we got a 7-day moon in Capricorn, my favorite sign, not biased. We've got in Capricorn, things are a little more sober, right? On the 25th, the moon started out in Sag, big reveal. And then making the square to Jupiter, and after that going void until it went into Capricorn. And then the mood, I'm sure, will be very sober between the 25th to the 26th because there's big pain here. Big pain. that has to be faced. And it's some hard truth. That's the Capricorn moon. That's the hard, cold reality. But we need to know the truth. So we've still got Mercury and Venus together. So we're getting information about relationships. We're getting the truth and a higher perspective about financial situations. We are looking at what we have to release emotionally and looking at our own maturity level, like looking at it from a very mature perspective with integrity, owning up to whatever we need to own up to, moving towards the future, creating new stability, income streams, whatever it means for us, making whatever adjustments to our finances and our budget with that Mercury and Venus, because it's making that in conjunct to the North Node in Taurus, which is causing changes with Uranus there to our financial stability. Adjustments have to be made. And this is a good day, like really looking at what we're spending, how we can save, how we need to adjust to, because there's a change in our physical stability, financial stability, and we have to make some adjustments here. But it can be painful. I'm not gonna lie. Whatever's coming up on this day could like really not feel that great. But I mean, it's not for everybody. All right, the 27th. And I want to say that this is Sunday. Yes, it is. 27th is Sunday. And it is a 8-day. So we got the moon conjuncting to Pluto. That's always heavy and intense. But it is making a sextile to Jupiter, which, you know, is probably like taking a mature perspective and transforming our world and accepting the world as it is, but how it is definitely changing. But perhaps this Jupiter now direct moving forward, we know a little bit more. We know what we're dealing with. Perhaps the wool was maybe pulled over our eyes, but now we're seeing the truth and accepting it and accepting the transformation. Moon conjunct Pluto. And this too shall pass. But definitely Jupiter and Pisces there at the very end is reminding us to have faith in something greater than ourselves and understanding that we are all part of a collective. We may not agree, but we are the collective of humanity. We are on this globe together, and sometimes transformation and change is like really scary and very difficult, but it's only scary if we're not willing to let go of certain things that need to be gone because they're part of an old system. They're part of the old regime. Pluto in Capricorn has been dismantling our governmental structures, had us looking at what we call patriarchy and what does that actually mean, right? The old system, that's Capricorn, that's tradition, status quo, you know. And moon conjuncts Pluto every month, and it is always pretty heavy, but it's the stark reality that everything dies, everything passes, everybody passes. So while it is heavy, it is profound, it is transformational, and it is supported by Jupiter in Pisces there at the very last degrees, because we are going into something new. And we are going to be facing even bigger changes. So the better we come to terms with whatever the truth is, the easier it'll be. Letting go, not holding on to things, not holding on to grudges, facing fears. That's part of our transformation here. So on the 27th, that is a Sunday. What else is going on? We still have Mercury and Venus rolling together. And I'm not going to pull up the stars right now, but I just know that these particular degrees in Sagittarius, the stars that are associated with them, starting with Antares, are associated with war and conflict and heroic effort. They're not easy stars, though. They're not easy stars. But starting next week, we have Mercury and Venus. Even though they are separating, they're still moving together, and they will make a favorable angle to Saturn. So that will stabilize things. That will help us to bring ourselves back into grounding, into our integrity, helping us to keep our boundaries solid, especially when it comes to the groups and the friends and the networks that we're associated with. And if there's been any kind of online blow up and conflict, it's possible that that could be sort of reaching some sort of level of resolution at that time. But it really is, it's a power struggle here, right? Pluto and the moon on the 27th is going to highlight what the power struggle is. Are we not wanting to let go of our power, or do we feel like we are losing our power? And so therefore, we start to play games with power and try to manipulate and try to sway things to going our own way. So looking at how we use our power, how we respond to power, how we react out of fear, how we try to keep things status quo, because we fear change. These are all things that we can reflect upon, and moving forward into the future, looking towards the future with an eye on the past, but releasing what we need to release, whatever's toxic, whoever's toxic, our memories and feelings about situations that might be toxic and not healthy for us, things that we're addicted to. Pluto and Scorpio rule addictions, attachment. So these are the things that we could be looking at, but it really does kind of look like an interesting week. I'm going to start doing my podcast again regularly from Sunday to Sunday. So I'm going to stop here, and this is Tuesday, so I'm doing like Tuesday to Sunday. So I will resume next week on my regularly scheduled programming. And I just want to thank you all for joining me and sharing this time. If you would like to connect with me on social media, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Facebook page. You can like it, share it, subscribe, follow. Where else am I? That's pretty much it for now. And if you're interested in a reading, you can reach me at AstroLunaChick@gmail.com. Just put in the header in caps reading in the subject field so that I don't miss it. And I'll try to remember to check my spam box so that I don't miss anybody. But you can send me a DM on the social medias because I usually do even check. You actually cannot just go to my profiles now. I am on lockdown because I go through this like I don't know, maybe every 3 to 6 months where I weed things out and make sure that the blocked people are blocked completely. And I'll put things on private when I feel like I just don't want prying eyes. So I'm on private everywhere right now. And so you have to friend me and follow me. So yeah, there you go. So do that. You can DM me. I do check those messages if you're interested in a reading. So get a hold of me and I will send you the booking details. I'm still doing the Eclipse special, $50. Are you kidding me? What is it? What, did they not feed you? That's my baby Serena. She's so meowy. Even she's never come in to say hello before during my podcasting. She's so beautiful. Yes, you are. I'll give you some nummies in a minute. No, you know what it is? She wants this chair. She likes this chair that I'm sitting in. Okay, so yes, Eclipse special. I do it. I mean, I offer it all the time. If you want me to look at a particular eclipse season for you to see exactly what the eclipses are doing in your chart, it's $50. And I can do the reading. We can do it in person. We can do it over the phone. I can pre-record it. I can do an email, whatever you want. So send me a message and I'll send you the booking details on that. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Hope you all have an amazing turkey day. I am making the turkey this year. It is free range, organic. I'm making mashed potatoes and I'm making candied yams. Had a request for candied yams. And making Brussels sprouts roasted with chestnuts and bacon. Heaven. And maybe some turnips too. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. And I think I'm going to make some chutney. I'm going to make some cranberry chutney also because I like it chunky. You know that about me. All right, guys. Enjoy your turkey day. Thank you. Listen to me on, oh yeah, Spotify, YouTube. Follow the YouTube and hit the bell so that you get a reminder. Oh, eTalk. I'm on eTalk too. So you can find me there. eTalk.tv. Yeah, and that's it. We're done. Zippity doo dah. Thank you for playing along. Stop sharing. I share because I care. Yeah, like my rosemary. It's so beautiful. Smell rosemary. I'm gonna make myself some tea. Rosemary, and I got a lavender plant. I'm gonna make myself some tea right now. All right, guys, stay warm. I'm cold. Okay, bye. Toodaloo. Mwah. I didn't mean to do that. Bye.